Yeah, we were just over on Ace Theo's channel and we were chatting back and forth. Recorded it, so for Patreons and me and Jay had just started a conversation as Ace was getting tired, so I thought me and Ace would just go. Why? We just go live. I was going to say we just go wild. We just go live. It's not too late now, so have a chat. We'll see how it goes. And yeah, so Jay, hi. Thanks for coming over. It's the first time.
Yeah, I feel welcome. Thank you.
Just yeah. So you had some questions, Jay. You said, should I be afraid or worry of you pressing me? I would say that I would be open enough for you to be able to press whatever way you wanted.
Yes, you made the fair point that you invited me over here, so that should have answered that. I did miss that. That makes sense. Well, where were we? Or did you want to take a different route?
Floor's yours, man. What would you do? Like, you worried about pressing me too much, so obviously you have. If anyone hasn't seen Ace Theo's video, go back and watch. I discussed an awful lot of my agnosticism and personal experiences and things like that. I think I portrayed myself as not an anti-theist or not a person, so I put that across. And yeah, we talked for nearly 2 hours, so Jay can, you heard some of it, Jay. On your thoughts on it, what would you like to go with it? Or
Yeah, well, I thought it was good that you were questioning him on the fact that, on his perspective, that people can do whatever they want and they're saved. That's what originally got me talking to Ace. Is I thought that was a strange claim. I'd never heard that before. That you can do whatever you want. Doesn't matter. You're saved.
well, he
That's
didn't
the way it's
say
supposed.
that. I said that. His
No, but he does. He does say that though. Like he doesn't say it like that, but that's what's good about the extreme question. Is that's essentially what he is claiming.
well, that was his belief. Yeah, the idea that Jesus died for all of us, regardless of your situation
Or what you do.
or what you
That's
did or do or whatever. Yeah, yeah.
that's going to be the kicker because the traditional view is that he died for us, and it depends on your willingness to accept him. And his point of view is that it's done. The work is done. It doesn't matter what you think or what you do.
That was the logical conclusion of it. Regardless of what they did because of the sin. Yeah, you can do whatever the fuck you want. It's literally the preacher. Have you seen the preacher? It's literally that guy. I drive up the motorway at 100 mile an hour and wipe people out because there's no rules to me.
Oh, you think the preacher lives like he knows that, but teaches otherwise? Is that what you're
I'm saying the
implying there?
preacher literally said that on my the analogy was people who believe in God are driving in the slow lane and he understands God. Said he could cheat on his wife and she would accept him, and then she went and made him a sandwich.
Who is that?
The
The preacher?
preacher.
Oh, is that the name of a YouTuber?
Yes.
Oh,
Clockwork Rex is in the chat going, yeah, Preacher was a good show. Man, be crazy. That's why it's a good show.
okay. I didn't know him. I thought you just meant
No,
preachers.
seriously, his wife was sitting beside him and he said things to the point. Like, I do believe that he said the phrase, I can cheat on my wife and she will forgive me. And then she went and made him food.
Well, is he? He's not saying Jesus will forgive him. He's saying his wife will actually
He is
forgive him.
with it, it was an example he was using. His
Yeah.
analogy was God said, go and watch the show, man. It's late.
All right.
Go watch the Preacher show. It's insane. Man's like, still subscribe to his channel and you should see just the titles of his videos.
And he's an actual preacher?
Well, he refers to himself as a preacher.
Like Ace, is he a universalist?
Regardless of him, I'm sure you had some. Oh, Bruce is live as well. You had some things to ask or say or question, so.
Well, we were talking about value.
Value, intrinsic value, as you put it.
Yeah, which is essentially philosophically an objective value versus an extrinsic or subjective value.
Well, the definition that I put forth to you before we. Yeah, Spooky just said it. Preacher be cray cray. Intrinsic value is a measure of what an asset is worth. So that can be subjective and either backed up by or dismissed by an objective point of view. Would you agree with that?
A subjective value that's backed up by an objective point of view, you say?
An intrinsic value is a measure of what an asset is worth. That can be that is subjective, which can either be backed up or dismissed by what you would consider an objective value. So if I said to you that this gold watch that I have is, worth £1 million, and the market says it's worth 100 quid, we'll just call myself Trump and say that I can over exaggerate my property in New York because I think it has more intrinsic. That intrinsic value that I put upon that can be then backed up objectively, or else it can be dismissed objectively.
Yeah, that's the part that I'm questioning, because to be backed up objectively sounds to me like it would be objective. It doesn't need to be backed up objectively, unless you mean it's an agreement of a unanimous agreement that it's backed up by.
To make sort of an anecdotal story, I valued my car at £2,100. Other book of my car is £1,100. I added 100.
Sorry about that. Go on.
I added £100 because of intrinsic value, because the car, regardless of what the book says, I know that it says one owner from new, full service history, and there's more of an objective point, so I can ask for that intrinsic value. But if it came to it and the car was crashed, I'd get the objective value, not the intrinsic that I've insured it for.
How did the objective value, the standard for that, get set?
By the value and this and the timing and all, reality and the paperwork of the year of the car, the average mileage on it, the average condition of it.
So it sounds like those features or those individual components are a collection of subjective values collected together, being called an objective value.
I would say that the value of the car, when it comes down to it, comes down to two things. When people make a statement that that thing has... You have a key ring that your daughter gave you and your daughter's stole it.
Sentimental value?
Sentimental value, yes. So that's the point of, to go with an extreme, an intrinsic value subjectively would be, your sentimental opinion, which can be backed up or dismissed by what people, world and society, and what the actively value it as.
Well, I think that you're stating two different forms of subjective value, I would say to that. And the reason I'm saying that is traces back to the purposes of our conversation, talking about value of the human being intrinsic versus extrinsic, was more to speak on the philosophical idea that human beings can have an intrinsic value, which is established, and we can talk about why that is, versus an extrinsic value, which breaks down to an opinion.
Well, it comes down to the point of different people's goals. taking away value away from it. People have, excuse me, say for toxic, you single person, never wanted to have kids, your career's your life, and you wanted a nice house with material things, you would add more intrinsic value to your gold toilet. Why am I awake? I've been on Ace Theos all night, Maya. You would add more intrinsic value to your gold toilet because it felt nice on your ass. Or if you were poor but always had enough to feed your family and things. Daughter went to college and she turned out to be a doctor. Her life and that toys that she played with and the interactions that you had with her would have, in my opinion, more intrinsic value, more subjective value than, say, a house or a gold toilet. Even though objectively that toilet would mean more to society with capitalism and the economy.
Well, I think you're interchanging the terms in these descriptions. I'm thinking of it like objective value is a value that is not disputed or does not matter about what people think or whether they acknowledge it or not. It just has value.
Give me an example, please.
The value is going to go to, let's say, the scriptures of being made in the image of God. That's going to be considered an objective value of
By Christians,
or intrinsic value, right? So a Christian is going to think that that's everybody in the world based on the way they view the world and the way that they believe the scriptures, that it applies to everyone regardless of what
but you
someone
can't,
else may
right?
think.
But you can't say an objective value and then apply it to Christianity, because Christianity is not objective. It's objective in an internal critique, but it's not objective. There is other people in the world who aren't Christians who don't consider that to be objective. So, like, and not even that.
Right,
Christianity
right.
isn't objective. It's objective from an internal critique, you know?
Right. I'm saying it comes down to a theory. Or
I'm asking you for an example.
An example of intrinsic value.
That is objective.
That's gonna be a theory-laden idea, philosophical theory.
A theory-laden philosophical idea. Can you be more
Right.
any sort of a word salad, or can you just slam it down?
No, I
for me?
can. Well, what I'm saying is, when you view something to have intrinsic value, or you believe something to have intrinsic value, you've got to have an idea behind that explains why it's intrinsic, why it's objective.
Right, so you're asking me for a justification in my subjective view of why I apply an intrinsic value to something.
Yeah, because I'm looking at that as an objective value. Are you?
Why would
looking
that
at-
be? No. You literally asked me for a subjective, intrinsic view, and then you can't say it's
Oh,
objective
oh.
then after that.
Wait, what are you talking about? I asked you about a subjective intrinsic.
Ask your, okay, right. Ask your question very directly. Go for it.
A question that I asked previously? Are you referring
Yes,
to
yes.
something?
A previous. I'm trying to get clarification, and it seems like, as I've pointed
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
you're talking lots of big words. And you're not being very clear on what you're saying. You're being very vague. And I'm asking you to just slam it down.
So we want to be able to describe the definitions of the words we're using. So I'm using intrinsic as objective value and extrinsic as subjective value. So intrinsic, objective, extrinsic, subjective.
Intrinsic value I can give to it. Value, as I just explained, with the gold toilet and having a family. I've been through it.
Yeah, I'm not following. You're saying that the toilet has intrinsic value, which, if we're talking about an objective value, it's a value
I'm
despite.
saying intrinsic. Oh, we're just repeating words. Intrinsic value is a measurement of what an asset. It can apply more of a subjective intrinsic value to my daughter and feel more worth from it than a person with a gold toilet, even though they have a bigger intrinsic value, but objectively, through the materials that it is made of, gold, society with capitalism, it is objectively worth more in value.
Right. It's considered to be worth more in value because it's gold. But if you don't recognize gold to have any value, are you still gonna claim that it's intrinsically valuable? Are you gonna say, well, you just don't know that it has value and you just don't care, but it actually does have value?
As I said, society gives things value. If we lived in a hypothetical sort of colloquial African village, family is more important.
Right. So what you're talking about there, as far as the way I look at it, is you're talking about a subjective or extrinsic value, a value applied by some sort of preference or opinion, and it could be
flat out. I'm just going to say it really simply because I don't know. There's a lot of back and forth here. Intrinsic value is not objective. I'm just going to say that flat out, waffling around. Intrinsic value is not objective.
So what is it then? You're just going to read the definition?
No, it's a value that I give to something, as I just explained. The
So
value that I give to my daughter, I would feel more value from than I would a gold toilet, even though someone else would feel more value with that toilet because they're more materialistic, they're more into capitalism.
Okay. Well, what do you see as the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic value then?
Well, under your definition of extrinsic value, you say extrinsic value is subjective. So I'm going to look up the definition under Google because your definition is the complete opposite of what I believe.
Yeah, I'm interchanging objective and subjective with intrinsic and extrinsic.
Yes, and I disagree with the way that you're doing that.
So so whatever path this takes, I would still like to remain within those concepts. So if it becomes a definitional issue, which it seems to be,
it's very literally very simple. Everybody in the chat is agreeing, okay? Everybody that's watching is agreeing that intrinsic value. No. Value is a definitional thing depending on the word that precurses it. So if I say it's a financial value, I'm going to talk about money. If I talk about, what was that word I looked for earlier? I couldn't remember. It applies to you and it's a feeling. Something that has value.
Sentimental.
Sentimental, sorry, mind blank. You have sentimental value. Then you have intrinsic value. Value,
that's what I'm saying. The sentimental value doesn't create an intrinsic value.
Sentimental value? No, does not include an intrinsic value. It was an example I was using that I would say you would have sentimental value without intrinsic, but you can't have intrinsic without sentimental.
Yeah, so I guess it's just a matter of maybe asking you if you can state something with intrinsic value, however you understand that. I think it would be
my
easier.
Intrinsic value is the value that I give to someone. That makes value, right? If I'm going on the whole, or if I have to say, I'm going to have to come up with different words, man. It's just become...
Yeah, you can say objective and subjective.
No, that's even worse because I'm playing into your game. Shush, right?
What do you mean by game?
No, don't even try and tangent. The point I'm saying...
No,
I'm being facetious.
I'm
being facetious and back and
you
forth.
brought me over here to
yes, I'm being facetious. Man, understand me. Yes, you understand who I am and how I speak, and I banter back and forth between.
I don't understand that, actually. That's an assumption that you're making. That I don't.
Have we not had enough interactions that you would understand that, a few times out of whenever that we're talking, I will make the odd wee jab and back and forth. Irish people do this because, when you're having fun with someone...
I don't think that entails the entire claim.
Intrinsic value, the word value, that means giving it appreciation in regard to the word that happens before. So with financial value, it is what is it worth financially. If I say sentimental value, it is what is worth sentimentally. Intrinsic value goes down to subjective nature because it's what you give it worth, because of how it impacts you.
So you've got a variation of subjective values there, correct?
In a variation of subjective values.
You've got a value that you might give a value to, a sentimental value, and then a personal value. You're stating nothing that is valuable objectively, correct?
A daughter is valuable intrinsically and through society, and the value of a life, she is valuable objectively.
Objectively, yeah. Tell me more about that. What makes her objectively valuable? Well, that's a descriptor word, but
that's what gives her value. No, you asked me what gives her value in the society that we live in. The fact that she is a human being in the society that we live in. Yes, I will describe my daughter, the ape, the evolved person from whatever the fuck you want to go. She's a human being. She has value in our society because she is a human being.
Right. So you're saying she has objective value.
In this society, as we have put it, she has objective value as a human being.
In another society, she may not have that objective value?
Well, you know the answer is true because I would guess that you are aware that societies before us and societies in this world now in underdeveloped countries have the opinion that life is worth less than what we apply to it in our society now.
So we're talking about subjective values then, changing values that are our opinion based on society and the time period.
Define, right, well, I'm saying subjective, okay, as in my personal opinion. And I'm saying objective as in I hand that responsibility to the society that I live in.
So it's an ad populum issue. Like the majority of the people agree on something, it becomes objective in your understanding?
I didn't say majority. I say the way society is.
Well, when we talk about society, there's always people in a society that will not agree with you. And not
so it's impossible for the minority of a society to rule, to have the rules? That's impossible.
Just trying to understand what you mean by...
Yes, you're making a statement that society is the majority. And I'm asking you, is it impossible for the minority beliefs of a population to become the rule makers?
Yeah, oh yeah, I think they do. The ruling class is a minority, yeah, right. Yeah, that's fine.
So I'm not making an ad populum. You're agreeing with me.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. It doesn't need to be ad populum, that's fine. But what I'm trying to get at is when you say your daughter has objective value, you're saying that it's because there's been a decision made within a society. On some level?
I don't think it's a decision that people just woke up one morning. Life is worth value.
Right.
No, let me answer. I do believe that people all through our existence, in all forms, have thought life has value. But the difference is what, if you take a life, can you achieve something? Do people die through natural means? And we will become accustomed to things. So if you are used to half your kids dying, you're not going to attach to them. You're not going to give them names and things like that. You're going to get used to it, you know? So life always has a value, an intrinsic value that you give to it. You can't say to a mother, have a kid 50-50, it's going to live past fucking 5 or 6 in the olden days, as we'll call it. They have to make a connection or not make a connection to a certain point with that child. Life still has an intrinsic value. But in the society that we live in now, we have the means to look after kids. We have the means for pregnancies to go well. We have this. We have all these things. So the idea of the idea of somebody dying naturally is just a sad thing rather than a 50-50 chance. So yes, life and the existence of someone living longer has been pumped up the list. So life and existing as a human being, just standardly in the society that we live in, has an objective value.
I mean, I heard some good points. I heard some emotional points. I thought you might have switched out objective for intrinsic a few times within your explanation, but aside from that,
What you thought and what happened may be different. So if you thought something and I didn't do it, then, I'm glad.
yeah. So the objective value is, if we try to hone in on it and describe exactly what it is, because I'm thinking an objective value of life is an embedded value and it doesn't actually matter.
Better for society as a whole in the evolutionary spirit. Oh, I was going to do it.
Well, you can
Evolution. Oh no, I do talk.
I kind of lose concentration because you're going on for a long time.
Oh, that's what I'm trying to stop myself doing. Evolution. Right? Show. Oh, I've lost my train of thought. Basic version. It's better for the society to not kill the people around you. It's better to be empathetic.
Says who?
Let's think. If you've 10 people in a society and 5 of them decide that they want to kill, what have you got left with?
Survival of the fittest.
That's no. Statistically, numbers, you have 10 people in a society, you have 5 that decide that they just want to kill everyone around them. What have you got left with?
I mean, I want to use my answer. Do you want me to give a different answer?
Really simple, extreme answer. You get one guy.
Survival of the fittest.
Survival of the fittest, you can state that, and that has a lot of context to it, but statistically you will have one. You can have 10 people in a society and say survival of the fittest, and that means that that society worked together and was the best society. So that 10 people survived because they were the fittest out of a different 10 group. You can't say survival of the fittest and say that that's okay when you end up with one. The statistic, the straight up numbers of it is, if you have 50% of the people who want to kill everyone around them, you will probably end up with one, and that's only if he's not fucking murder-suicide. If you end up and say survival of the fittest and you have a society who wants to do better and works together and all feed each other, and this person's good at that and that person's good at that, that is survival of the fittest as well. But that's a society. So the actual numbers of it, when you start with a society of 10 people, 5 want to kill, you end up with 1, maybe 0.
What was the question just before we went into that example?
The idea that evolution puts forth the thought that it's better not to murder people.
No, that wasn't a question. I thought it was something along the lines of who decides what is best.
Yes, the society.
Who's the arbiter?
As we have moved forward, I don't know if you're not listening, but as we have moved forward in progression with our science and stuff, people give better value. People always had an intrinsic value to life, but it is objectively better now because we have better medicine and stuff like that. If a child dies, it's a weird thing. It's not accepted. Okay.
So when you say objectively better now, you're talking about the majority of people think this, or it's just, where are you getting those kind of claims from? That life is objectively better now, for instance.
Where am I getting this idea that life is literally explained it 3 times with the fact that society has moved on through medical nature, through the idea. I even mentioned mothers having twice as many kids because 50% die. I don't know. Are you not listening, Jay?
No, I am listening. You are going into some long examples, but I am listening. I'm staying with the question. Basically, at the points where you say something is objectively better, I hear you saying that some people thought that
society now.
Well, let me finish.
No, you asked me a fucking question. I'm going to answer. You say I'm waffling and I can't give you a direct answer.
Well,
Society now.
what I was saying though.
Society now, in our modern age, with all our medical science and all the rest of it, puts more value in life than what people did 500 years ago, when you could just shoot a person in the street, throw them out the back, and it wouldn't work out.
I mean, I guess there's multiple directions I can go with this. I'll just try to flow with you. Does putting a value on life make it more valuable? No, you just said that. So I'm trying to go with you. I said, you don't want to tell me how objectively better.
The whole point of this was intrinsic value. The whole point of this was the point that I'm.
Have we established what intrinsic value is? It's not, you're saying it's not an objective value. I was using it as an objective value in the original.
Yes, you were. Yes, and I disagreed with you at the start with that, and I pointed it out. I don't know why you're not listening.
I am listening, MathPig. Trying to make sense out of this. Just. All
right, ask a straight question. Go. You have difficulty.
No,
hold on. You have difficulty in understanding a few things that I've said because I've given long rants. Ask a specific question. I'll give a specific answer.
When you say that society has become objectively better, who decides that that is true?
What I mean? It's something that generally doesn't happen. A child dies in childbirth. Intrinsically, every parent, but objectively, they had. Now you name your child before it's definitely it's a weird thing for a child to live. That's fucked up. A weird thing for a child to die now, out of the blue, just for no reason. You know.
Can you think of?
Pardon?
Can you think of any countries that are not thriving in the way that you think society has thrived or have not progressed? Would they agree? Would they be in line with the idea that?
Jay, sorry. No, I don't mean to interrupt, Jay. Everybody's tagging me because I leant back in my seat and my audio cut out, so I was looking away and I didn't hear the start.
I was asking about, do you think that there's countries that haven't progressed in the ways that you're claiming we as a society have progressed? And in such societies, do you think that there are also societies that don't agree with the idea that life is objectively better than it was 50 or 100 years ago? And is it also okay for people to not agree with that, or are they automatically assumed to need to understand this? Because when you speak of something being objective or objectively true, I'm taking it as something that's true, despite whether you think so or not, or outside of opinion, something that just is true, whether you acknowledge it or not.
Okay, just double check. Just double check. Can everyone hear my audio now? I've got the mic closer to me and I've sort of balanced it and stuff and all. So double checking that. And second of all, I give an example of this, man. Lots of African countries where people go wild and revolutions and stuff like that, where that society expects there to be death, expects it to happen. They give intrinsic value to life, but objectively, in the society that they live in, a life has less worth than what we would give it because we are Western society. I'm just going to use that as a phrase. I don't know what else way to put it without being a dick. So Western society over third world societies. Is
Yeah,
my
it
audio
sounds
better? Richard, links there. Anyone else? Link's been pinned.
so. It sounds like when you're talking about a value of life in one society being less important than the value of life in another society, that what you've honed in on is a subjective idea of the value of life. If you combine the two ideas together and you have the subjective preference or opinion of one society versus a subjective preference or opinion of another society, and it's comparative. The word objective doesn't strike me as useful in those examples.
I'm really struggling with your ability to understand this. Intrinsic value is something I give to it. Objective value is generally set by the objective nature of the society that I live in. Everybody as a parent loves their child, loves their children. They all want them to live. But objectively, as a society, with medical science, we have moved on. Clockwork, are you getting
It
this?
sounds good. It sounds good, but it's in fact not quite the case. Like, it sounds good that every parent loves their child and wants them to live, and
Oh, no, yeah.
it sounds good. It does, but I'm just for the purposes of the idea of objectivity and subjectivity. It's not necessarily true in all cases, and certainly not to the same degree.
Clockwork, you've been
You
listening.
want
Like your
to ask
input.
me something? Yeah, you wanted to ask me something?
Link is now pinned. Took me fucking 2 minutes, but it's pinned.
Oh yeah, I just clicked on it, can you?
I do want to point out, I would appreciate if everyone was respectful and not overtalk. Jay did ask that we kept it just me and him for the start to have a conversation going because he didn't. So if we can be respectful and not talk over each other.
Oh, fair enough.
So clock, work, Rex. You've been
Yeah, just
listening.
Rex.
Rex.
You can just call me Rex.
I was being funny. I'm just not
I know.
that.
TikTok. TikTok.
Your
Yeah.
thoughts, your inputs, your questions for me. I'll ask you to ask me a question on something I said or something, whatever I put across, and then ask you.
Well, what is the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic? Have y'all figured that out yet?
Nobody actually give me the spelling of intrinsic, and I have spelled it ENTRINSIC, and Google has told me to go fuck myself. So if someone can give me that, I can look up the actual term. Jay, can you give me the spelling
It's an INTR.
Well, from the way I understand
I've got
it,
intrinsic. I'm
intrinsic.
looking extrinsic. Is that then just intrinsic with an EX?
Yeah.
You know how to spell the thing you're talking about, yes?
Yeah.
in-
The idea is what's most important behind it, that an intrinsic value is an
So no then.
embedded.
Intrin-
Like, I'm talking about it as an embedded objective value versus a subjective value that's given to something. That's the way I'm using it conceptually, or at least I was attempting to.
Well, you know how prefixes work, right? Prefixes on a word. You know how they work, right?
Oh. Google describes intrinsic value as the difference between what I described as objective and what I described as intrinsic. So when I said gold toilet has a value, but someone holds it to a certain point, that is intrinsic value, the difference between the two. So it's an actual difference you're asking me. So you're asking me, do I believe something is a thing, or do I believe something is a difference between two things? They're not the same category.
Well, there's a simple way to look at this too. Is there
You mean your
anything that-
definition? You mean the way you're defining it, rather than the simple version? You mean
I
the way
think
you're defining it?
Conceptualizing it is what the way I would put it, because I think a lot of times when we start to get into definitions of things, we get lost in just butting heads on the definition. But if we go back to the concept of what we're trying to say, It makes more sense sometimes. So I was looking at intrinsic value, like an intrinsic value in a human being when we originally started this, as a value that's established outside of the value that you were
Yeah,
or
you
I.
made the statement that intrinsic value was objective, and we disagreed with that an hour ago.
Well, you found a definition that there was an objective.
I never believed that intrinsic. I always knew what the colloquial version, as I said, and there was no way that even the colloquial version, and I know I'm saying that, of intrinsic meant objective. From the get-go, I said subjective. I disagreed with your opinion. You have the flip-flop version of what I think.
That's fine. Everything we can also do it this way too. Maybe just trying to finish here. You think every value, correct me if I'm wrong, you think every value on everything in existence is going to be subjective ultimately, right? A value
I never said that. I literally said the word value. Okay, you can ask me that.
I didn't say that you said it. I'm asking.
Okay, you're asking me that. Okay, you're asking me that, and I said that the word value means nothing without the word that precedes it. Okay, so you can say financial value, sentimental value. We went through this. So when you say all value, that is so wide and so vague. No. So wide and so vague that it includes everything from everybody's opinion of all different things. So you need to be specific when you say value. You can't say all value. I've pointed out that I am under the belief that there is different types of value. Value is defined by the word that precedes it.
Okay, since there's a lull in the conversation here,
that was your opportunity.
Let me just say, I have my dad's deerskin knife. All right, it's probably worth like $5 or $10 on the open market, and an extrinsic value. But to me, it's worth $1,000 because it was my dad's. So to me, it means a whole lot more than it does on the market. Do you see the difference?
Sentimental value? Yeah.
If I can point out intrinsic value and objective value, you got wrong there. You're on the market, it has an objective value. Intrinsic value is the difference between one. That's the point I'm making. What Jay is asking is me to give something a value, which is a description of a difference. It's not. Intrinsic value is the difference between the objective price of an option and its intrinsic.
Yeah, you're talking about stock options now. You know that, right?
Value, price, thing, definition, whatever it is.
No, that's literally the stock option definition. I'm familiar with options, which is fine.
It's the first thing popped up on Google, and I went with that as well as the exact same first thing that popped up for intrinsic value. We're happy enough for me to take the first thing that popped up on Google with an intrinsic value, and when I flipped the words between money and market to person and thing, you were happy with that with intrinsic, and when I'm doing it now with extrinsic, you're not happy with it.
No, you're using a stock option definition. I'm just pointing out. It's fine. It's fine. Everything's good.
If you want to go to stocks, okay. Does the price of gold fluctuate day by day? Does the price of diamonds fluctuate day by day? It has. Oh, you're fine.
Oh, I guarantee. Oh no, I'm gonna go and do it now. I'm gonna check my audio, and it's probably not gonna be. Okay, people.
Does gold have an extrinsic value? Does diamond have an extrinsic value? What about copper?
Well, yeah. What is the difference between the extrinsic value of gold and the intrinsic value of gold? Or are you just talking
No,
about the
you
market
can't say
value?
what's the difference between
Well, I
intrinsic.
was asking. Because you're saying
You can
it's
ask
a
him all you
form
want,
factor.
but the word you're asking him what the difference between extrinsic value is and intrinsic. Okay, and
Well,
I'm
I
not.
was
That's the
trying
last time I'm
to
going to say.
until you
Let me
decided
finish.
you
Let
had
me
to.
finish. Let me finish.
Well, you didn't let me finish. That's
Okay,
the
well,
point. Like, you keep jumping in. Why?
why? Because you're swapping extrinsic for objective. Extrinsic is literally the answer to your question. You can't put it in there.
I think we're talking past each other, MathPig. I don't know. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna last. I'll try.
All right, if you don't want to accept the actual definitions of these words
Well,
that you're
I mean,
using,
I can accept them, but I also want to talk about certain concepts.
go for it. Give me another one.
Another what?
Give me a concept, a topic of conversation. You want to talk about concepts? Give me another topic of conversation, then a concept.
Well, I can keep it on the same topic. I was wondering do you think anything has a value outside of a value that's given to it by human beings?
No, not really.
Depends. Do you believe that aliens exist? The aliens may take it have bigger value than we do.
Oh Jesus, you just took me back to the Richard conversation we had the other night.
No, but outside of humans, right? Outside of humans, there is aliens.
If all animals are aliens, they're fucking delicious.
Oh, that was mad, that statement. That was mad. Right, the point I'm making is you asked outside of humans beings, there is aliens. If you asked outside of a conscious physical mind, then I couldn't answer that. It depends what you need to be specific. So if you're asking me outside of human beings on this planet, do materialistic things have an objective value? Well, that depends on the society. And if humans don't count, there is aliens. There may be aliens. There could be alien societies who would give an objective value to certain things.
They would give an objective value or a subjective value?
Well, I've been fighting for the society defines the objective value. If you want to get down to the points of saying, as we're now talking about space, what creates life, then objectively to the universe to create life, we could talk about what? Carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and things like that. But objectively, as I've been arguing, is set by a society. So we could say that, what? I don't know, what's useless for our society? Wood.
Yeah, you could say,
you know, we could say wood's worth this and people don't like wood and everyone's metal and plastic and all the rest of it. And some society will wipe out a planet and create an entire forest because they think trees are the best thing ever. You know, a society...
You could have a society of people that think that certain human beings don't have value within that society. How would something like that work?
Well, rather than something like that, working, I would fight for the argument of something like that happening. And if we are taking my, idea of people as we get better with medical society and more progressive, then I don't think that would happen. I agree with you that it can, and we've seen in history that it does. And yes, we'll run that idea. What if Nazism took over the whole fucking world? Well, you would have a race of people who all look the fucking same. That's going to happen if we're going to mix and mingle, and the only difference is they'd look white, we're probably going to look a little brown. You know, it's as a whole in the universe. You know, how big do you want to get this? How objective of a society do you want to get this? Like, a society sets the goals, in my objective view. If they do that, they take over the world, and they survive, then that's what happened.
You said in your objective view?
No, society's objective view. My personal opinion.
I guess I'm trying to...
Right, well, my personal opinion and my subjective view of what I think is the best society is where I'm king, everybody listens to me, people eat right, they do better, everyone listens to me. Everybody has electric cars, wind production, everyone listens to me. As I mentioned earlier, every time a human tries to take control and do this for the betterment of everyone around them, they end up being a human. I said this in the ATHEIST channel. They fuck up. We become selfish. Power corrupts. You know, there's an awful lot to unpack there.
Yeah, so when you said your subjective opinion, and then you also fit into a society which has an objective, did you say opinion or did you say objective?
Are you asking me, do I think that I'm better than the society that I live in?
No, I'm asking
Oh,
you.
I'll answer yes. I'll answer yes.
No, I'm saying you've made the simple point that you have a subjective opinion. I follow that. But you've also said that a society has an objective opinion.
Yes.
Okay, and then you're part of a society. So where do those two ideas merge?
My subjective opinion is my daughter has more intrinsic value than anyone else in the world, and objectively as a human being, she has value in society. Objectively. We're going around in circles, Jay.
No, I didn't wait a second. So when you subjectively decide your daughter has a certain value, it becomes objective to society? I don't know about the circle.
A human being has objective
there we
value
go. A
in
human
society.
being has objective value.
In society. Did anyone else hear me say this in Argo? That's the objective
Hold on,
point?
let me finish where I'm going with this. So a human being has objective value within a society as determined by the society, you say?
About this society, or are you asking me about past societies?
I'm asking about the determination of that objective value.
Do you want me to make the statement again that I say?
No,
right?
actually,
As a group in a tribe, the objective decision is usually made by the society. You can have your subjective opinions, but if you're going to give up sort of to a point, you know, and set yourself by the people around you, the people around you, I would define as a society. So the society of the people around you decide what they agree would be objective. And I'm doing all this with finger quotes.
So their subjective opinions turn into objective opinions at what
point? Are you not listening to me? I have my subjective opinion, but
yeah.
Right? My subjective opinion.
Yeah.
Ideas as society, as it progresses through medical science and being able to achieve other things, and the whole mother parent, are you not listening to me on the reasons why our society is getting better? You just
no, I'm listening. I'm not able to find the connection of where it goes from personal subjective ideas and opinions into a group objective opinion, what the mechanism that makes that happen is. I'm not clear on that. I don't think you're being clear about that.
Okay. There's you. There's your wife. There's your child. Child is starving. It's the 1700s. Is it possible for you to get out and stab someone, take their food and get away with it?
Yeah.
Right. Would you agree that's a bad thing?
For the guy getting stabbed, yes.
Oh, yeah. Would you agree that there's an intrinsic value on life? Regardless. Would you agree that that person, just on a basic note of human nature and the people you've interacted with, except for Jill and Praise and all them other people, that people are generally good and they apply an intrinsic value to life, that it's worth something?
Yes, I think people have intrinsic value.
Would you also agree that your life is worth less to me, in my opinion, than my daughter's? Is intrinsically worth more to me than yours, even though I believe life is important?
I mean, yes, I understand what you're saying.
No, man, the house is on fire. You're in the house. My daughter's in the house. You're burned to death. I'm taking the daughter.
I understand the logic.
Yes,
of what
right.
You're saying, yeah.
So you understand that people will go outside of society and do things that are wrong to save the people who are closest to them. As society has progressed with medical science and the ability of a social network, fuck that, net, with social programs and being able to have, over here at least, you don't work, you get disability and stuff like that. We have taken away the need to kill your neighbor to steal his carrots. So we have objectively, as I stated, through society, give life more value. Intrinsically, life was always important, but objectively, as the society stands now, due to medical science, industrial, it is weird for people to die. It's a bad thing. It's wrong. And that is now more pushed as a bad thing because of where society is. You may make the statement that God said it's always wrong to murder. Daddy said it was fine earlier. We are at this point now because we're ignoring the progression of our civilization.
Who is? No, I mean, I got to disagree with you. That's certainly not what I'm doing, but I'm trying to clarify the use of objectivity in your description. And I heard where you used it. It's fine. I'll leave it alone. I'm just in the same place that I was.
Ask a question to get clarification. As I have asked you multiple times.
You gave me the clarification. You gave me your clarification, so I'll leave it at that. I'll take it.
Anyone else is welcome to join. And Rex, all yours.
Oh, well, I'm still here. I'm just listening to this weird shit.
The audio is cutting out because I keep leaning back because it's very soon. But
Oh yeah, don't give the mic a hand job. I'm just. But yeah, okay. Let's talk about Middle East countries. Who's valued more, men or women?
you asking me or are you asking me or Jay? Jay's got very shy.
Both of you. I mean, I'm pretty sure me and MathPig agree on this. But
I think women are given lesser value.
women are what?
Given lesser value in those countries.
Oh, yeah. And that's a societal thing. That's a religious thing. Right?
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to refresh just because I'm getting feedback from the... Yeah, I'm going to refresh. I'll be back in a minute.
I don't know. I thought you were going to tell me. You said it was because of religion. I assume you're talking about the...
As the objective and subjective thing.
You're talking about the Muslim religion?
Is it?
Hi, Jay.
I thought you knew. I assumed you knew because you brought it up.
How's it now?
Is it just
Does it sound better now? Shouting out to the audience and stuff. It should sound better now.
Yeah, you do.
Yep, there we go. Feedback. Thank you, JG. A different JG, one that looks like a cat with no E's on the end of G. Hi, Jeff. You've been listening for a while. What is your thoughts? You're muted.
Oh, I've only been listening to it for a few minutes. I'm not entirely sure where you guys have been with this. So
All around the world.
JG asked me what the difference between intrinsic value was and extrinsic value. And I explained to him that intrinsic value was something that I subjectively give to something that I feel value with, as an example, sentimental value, even though objectively it can be dismissed or confirmed. So if I have a gold toilet and I think it's the best gold toilet in the world and I feel love for my toilet, it can be objectively confirmed or dismissed if that's the best toilet in the world. Even though one is objective value, the other is intrinsic value. Waffle, waffle, waffle.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if I follow that.
What do you consider intrinsic value?
Well, intrinsic just means it's valuable in and of itself, right? It has a value to a certain degree by its own nature, right?
So would you give it its value? So if you had a gold watch, its intrinsic value would be subjective to you.
Well, it doesn't really matter. I don't think the subjective objective portion or any kind of relative consideration matters, right?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, you hearing, G? You listening?
What's that?
The fact that I made the point and you wanted to flip-flop between the words and I said it didn't matter, and now Jeff's just backing me up. Sorry, I'm being a dick. Go on ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I think in the case that you'd be talking about, like with your, the golden toilet, right? There's the extrinsic value would be the personal preference that you attribute to it, right?
Yes.
Like you have a preference to it, so that's your golden commode's extrinsic value. Like you fancy it. Now, intrinsically, the value of a golden toilet is it's probably only as valuable intrinsically in two ways. One, it's a useful toilet. Two, it's made out of gold.
Makes my bum feel nice.
That's an extrinsic factor, right?
Exactly. Yep. And would you agree?
Would you say that someone doesn't care for the toilet or gold in any way, that it has no intrinsic value to them?
Definitely less.
No, it wouldn't have like an extrinsic value. That they're not really getting any value out of it, right? But it still doesn't mean that the toilet's not actually useful in and of itself. The intrinsic value of a toilet is that it functions as a toilet. It's not broken. And two, it has an intrinsic value because it's made out of gold that can be melted down and used for other things you'd use gold for.
Right. Now,
regardless of what the person's
if I can just interrupt, right?
Toilet.
If you said that last thing about it being melted down and used that.
I'd never melt down your golden toilet if that's what you're worried
No.
about.
You're not touching my Trump toilet. The last statement you made, you applied it with intrinsic. The point I was making was that there is an objective value relative to society about the value of the material that it is worth, and the difference between what it's worth as materials and what it's worth to how it makes your bum feel is the difference between subjective and objective being defined by the society that you live in. So if you live in a society that thinks gold is not worth a piece of shit, and you have a gold toilet, it's not worth anything.
Oh, nice use.
So objectively, if you live in a society that gold is worth something, the toilet is worth more.
Well, no, I mean, I think in that sense that the objective value, it depends on what the objective is, right?
Well, I don't like to quote Wildheart or talk about Wildheart when he's not here, but as I tried to point across to Wildheart when he had a massive argument with someone about the definition between subjective and objective. Hold on, I join my skins. Is when you talk to a Christian, and I don't want to speak for Christians or anything, but I'm being very facetious and vague. But when you talk to a Christian and they say objective, their definition of objective actually means subjective to the mind of God. So you can argue all you want that subjective and objective are different things definitionally, but in an internal critique in a Christian point of view, objective is subjective to God's mind.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with those conversations is that, I think the philosophical definition for objective and subjective is dependent on the existence of minds. Objective is independent of the existence of any minds at all, right? Something could be objectively valuable or objectively real, regardless of any minds there to observe it or value it, right? So that's kind of the philosophical definition. But what ends up happening is that people wouldn't casually using the terms objective and subjective. Objective means it's usually there's some kind of arbiter that determines something.
Exactly.
Subjective is about personal preference, and oftentimes, I think when certain atheists do this too, but a lot of theists do this. When they say subjective, they mean relative or relativistic, and they're trying to dismiss it. Oh, you're just saying that your morals are subjective. What they mean is, oh, you're one of these moral relativists, or your morals are relative. You know, one person's truth isn't the same as another person's.
So when you
truth,
say
and I
relative,
think that gets flaggy.
So when you say relative, you know, you're talking about outside sources, so relative to the people around you.
Relative, well, in a way, but it can also be relative to the situation, relative to the moral code.
But from a personal point of view, from an actual human being point of view, we can talk about planets and this, that, and the other. But from a personal point of view, it would be from other people's point of view how you get that in relative terms.
Right. It's
so
already,
society.
Yeah, but it's already given up. That's the problem, though. It's given up on trying to make a distinction between objective and subjective in the philosophical sense, which is about the existence of minds, and relative. If relative is being used, and relative or subjective are being used and kind of used in exchange for each other. I mean, there is a little bit of overlap, but they are different.
Yes.
So.
Well, thank you. Jay, have you anything to report to that?
I don't. I
15 more minutes, people. 15 more minutes. Oh, we've got Gabe. Okay, Gabe. I don't know who Gabe is. Does anyone know who Gabe is?
Mm-hmm.
Is he from 3D Gabe?
It just says G, capital letter, ABE, with a G as an icon. I would ask for Gabe to show his face and 3 fingers up it to their face so that they're not going to porn bomb me. But we'll take a chance. Will we take a chance? Oh, they've went white. Well, they went white.
The distinction between the relative and the.
I'm hovering over.
Subjective.
Okay, just to say, Gabe, I'm hovering over the button. Any dicks, I'm removing you.
Is it JS?
I don't know who. Hi, Gabe. Thanks for joining.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm from Ace's channel, JG. I've seen you there. Yeah, Gabe's 3D videos there.
Oh, that's you. Right on.
Ah, good. Thank you, Gabe, for joining. I appreciate that.
Yeah. No, I've been wanting to talk to JG about this for a while. The whole objective versus subjective, because a lot of times in arguments that I've heard on Ace's channel, JG references the objective. So I wanted to ask you, JG, like, what do you think the objective is? And I guess or maybe I should just mention what I think it is versus the absolute. But what do you think it is? Like, is it actually the absolute truth, or is it separate?
Well, I think I tend to use objectivity when I talk about God's laws and moral laws and objective truths of God, independent of human opinion or acknowledgement. It's when I typically use the term. And it came up with maybe what MathPig was referring to with Wild-Hearted. He was getting into a discussion there about subjective and objective morals, and that God's moral law was subjective because it was subject to God's mind. And I made the point to him that even having said that God could still apply an objective moral to humanity, even if it was subject to the mind of God. I kind of added that last part in there to tie in what MathPig said, but did that answer your question?
You were saying, so to differentiate myself from what you're saying, I perceive three different values of truth. There is truth as it is, without any perspective, and I would consider that to be the absolute. So there's absolute truth, which is what God is, or whatever anything is outside of anybody's perception of it. And then people use the word objective to embody that. But I think the objective is really just a collective of subjectives, because the collective is just a bunch of subjectives agreeing upon terms
Yep.
outside of the absolute.
Yep.
So you would say that the objective truth would be a unanimous subjective truth?
I would say the objective has to be a collective of subordinate perspectives. They're not going to be the absolute. They can only be a group of people looking at something that they think is there and agreeing upon it, but they're never God. They're never actually the truth. They're not exactly what it is anytime. Like, we don't even have perfect numbers in this reality,
So-
you know.
So these definitions that you set forth are going to also miss that mark, I would say, front.
Well, they're going to miss the mark of empirical value, but they're not going to miss the mark because I would say that
These are not
everything
empirical
necessitates.
concepts. There's going to be metaphysical, right?
That's what I'm saying. We are subject to a faith-based construct to where anything we believe necessitates faith, whether it's on the subject
You're roboting ever so slightly,
level,
Gabe.
the agreed. Huh? Oh, I'm sorry.
If you speak a wee bit slower, the bandwidth should be a wee bit easier.
All right, I'll try to talk slow. I'm saying that there's a single perspective, that's us in our heads. Then there is a group of perspectives, that's us agreeing. That's the objective. That's all the objective ever can be. And then there is the truth, the actual truth that we can never reach, which necessitates a leap of faith on every level.
Interesting.
Do you have faith in society that we have got to the point that it's better not to murder people, even though it aligns with God's point of view? Do you believe that it is better for society as a social point of view, Gabe?
Yes, I do. So I think what we do in societies and as individuals is we seek the absolute good. JG, you often talk of God's moral values, the structures that we have to live by. So I think that's what we seek to do, but it does have to be a leap of faith. We can't say that there is an objective that's absolute, because we're always going to be short of the absolute.
So I'm trying to think about what you said. I find that interesting. I'll think about it more. So we have our subjective ideas, and then you say collectively we can create an objective idea. And I'm wondering, what kind of a group does that entail to make it objective?
May I say, if I can just be a wee bit pernickety, rather than create an objective, I think it becomes an objective.
Okay, yeah.
If I could just be pernickety, sorry, leaning into the mic, rather than create an objective, I think
Right,
it
that might be-
becomes an objective.
Yeah, so if collective subjective ideas become an objective idea, at what point? What is the mechanism, or what is the point that they become objective within a group?
That is a weird ass question. May as well ask
What?
what's a woman.
I've tried to think of an example of this, like how to describe it. So if you picture like a house, everybody goes over there to stay, and there's a coffee table in the middle of the room, and everybody in there has a subjective opinion on where the coffee table is before they go to bed. And then together they agree objectively where the coffee table is. And then they all go to bed. So in the middle of the night, there's an earthquake, and the coffee table moves to the other side of the room as it slides across the floor. That's the absolute, where the coffee table actually is. So somebody runs down the stairs in the middle of the night, And that's where their subjective hits the absolute. And then once that information is updated, it becomes the new objective.
Gabe,
It's
if
an
I get
interesting example, except that you use time involved in that example. So you've got a time change within the structure, which I would question. Go ahead, MathPig.
Oh, sorry, I'm just doing the dots, same as in JG's. I've got the script running. They literally use that over here in medieval times in castles and stuff over here. They have staircases that are up and down, and they are maybe 20 steps. And the 15th step is a half an inch, a half a mil, or whatever it is, bigger than the rest of them. And when you're building a staircase out of stone and all them there, you try and make them all the same. And they did this for the ability when people invaded them and they ran up the stairs or ran down the stairs. Wesley, please be respectful and don't interrupt. Whenever they ran up the stairs or ran down the stairs, they were used to the standard size of a castle. There, standardization of building this. But when they did that, there was a step that was ever so slightly smaller or bigger. And when you stepped on it, you had muscle memory, you had this recollection. And it fucked up because you weren't used to it. You have a pattern that's set. And I've lost my track because I'm blaming Wesley because he jumped in. But your brain, your people, the people around can set up a pattern and shit gets messed up and I've lost it all. It's all your fault, Wesley. Jeff, help me.
Well, you're going to be rich. I'm going to be poor. Okay.
I'm rich? Fuck.
Yeah,
Gabe.
all I was saying is that God's truth, or the truth of the universe, is aside from human interpretation. And the saying something is objective is really just putting your faith in the agreed upon human interpretation, whereas we can never know what the truth is. That's our place here. No matter what, even our best collective interpretations are still not quite to the absolute. That's what I'm saying.
I hear your perfect whirring of your parallel ways and your horrible tropics.
Yeah.
So you don't think anyone can ever be aligned with absolute truth?
If I can interrupt, Jeff's leaving now. I'd like to give Jeff a wee chance to say bye and share his channel if necessary. He loves the asshole 104, so go on, Jeff.
No, I was just gonna say bye. Thanks for having me on. I know you're gonna be, well, I hope that you're gonna be getting done pretty soon because
4 o'clock. I need to go to fucking bed.
It's cow milking time, right? I mean, the Amish are waking up now. You maniac. Anyway, I will catch you all later. Take it easy.
Have a good one.
Continue ahead, Gabe.
Oh, well, JG said something there
sorry, Jay.
to me, and I wanted to hear what he said again.
Jay, floor's yours, JG.
Sorry, I was on mute. Dang. So it's your contention that no one can ever be aligned with absolute truth for even a moment of time?
What?
I think we might be able to, yes, but I think it's only through faith that we can. We can't say for certain. It's a faith leap, and we hope that we're aligned. So yeah, I agree with what you said, but it can't be certainly known.
Are you speaking from Jesus?
Well, I would hope so, but I mean, I'm not. This is not from the Bible. It's just an interpretation of, philosophical terms on relativity.
When you're offered $32,523 to be laser brand tattooed with an Omni UPC barcode on your right hand wrist or forehead, are you going to take it?
No, hell no.
Wesley, we said about being calm and not crazy.
Well, it's fine. It's just like 50% louder than everybody else. What are you talking about, a barcode? A mark?
Omni. It's going to be a laser print that burns into the flesh. Have you ever seen a laser printer? How they have that very high-pitched electronic guttural sound as it burns into metal. and
Wesley,
makes
I'm going to
purple glow?
offer you an opportunity to talk about what Gabe and Jay were talking. If you want to tangent it, I do apologize, but I will put you backstage. But if you want to comment on what Gabe and Jay were talking about, rather than tangenting about, I don't know, Cyberpunk 2097.
Well, I think that stuff is cool. I mean, I'm into that kind of. I bet JG is too. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, no, we're ending up. I'd rather finish up the conversation we're having rather than starting another one. You understand?
All right. So, Gabe, so the objective truth in what you're putting forth is a collective, it's a collective idea, a subjective collective idea that it becomes an agreement, though, right? Ultimately, you're saying it's an agreement.
I think that was aimed at you, Gabe.
Over.
Yeah. What as if? Yeah. Am I not? Am I speaking? Hello.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. I'm outside. Yeah. So when people refer to an objective, I hear it as in they're referring to an absolute, as if somebody says something is objectively true, they're saying, well, this is agreed upon, this is confirmed. What I'm saying is that is underneath the absolute. It still struggles for relevance, and it requires a leap of faith because it's a collective of subjective opinions. That's what I'm saying.
So what do you think when someone talks about mathematical laws or the laws of logic? You don't consider those objective truths based on your definitions, or do you?
I think you can build a logic problem that's binary, so it's if and. So you could do that, but it would leave a lot out depending on the context of the conversation. And also, we've found that numbers are not absolute. I mean, even in math, we're still, when you launch a rocket, it's still not absolute. We've not found the absolute level of numbers. Mathematicians will tell you numbers are still imperfect.
Well, when you have a conversation as we are, I assume you're utilizing the law of non-contradiction in order to make points and refute points. So would you say that the law of non-contradiction as it is known is subjective?
The law of non-contradiction is subjective?
Yeah.
Well, it still adheres to a theoretical absolute. But the in-between, so you have a box with contents, right? So you're saying that it depends on the contents of the box, what you're talking about.
He's asking you if you like his black square-toed shoe.
What?
He's asking you to build his ego and if you like his shoe, his black square-toed dirty shoe. That's what he's asking.
Yeah. Are you all right?
He's going to wear that shoe to the end.
Okay,
So you really don't have anything that guy doesn't have anything.
Yeah,
to add,
no.
he just comes in to do that?
I give him a chance. I always give Wesley a chance. There is rumors and talks and all the rest of it. Look it up yourself. I'm not going to get into it. I always give Wesley a chance. But Wesley, I did ask you not to go fucking out of madness tangent. And we're talking about shoes, all right? We've got very little time left. So, Richard, you're more than welcome to come in for the last 10 minutes. Throw out some stuff. But otherwise, boys, men, ladies, whatever would you like to be referred to as?
No, trying to grasp what JG was saying exactly, because you were saying if we're adhering to a binary equation with a question, if something could be answered yes or no in the binary, does it mean that we're adhering to an objective? I would say that any binary that's actually truthful has to be referential to the absolute, which is above the objective consensus of subjectives.
I feel like doing a wrestling interview and going,
the objective consensus, you say. So maybe it's the way you're using objective as a noun, like we have an objective, like a group has an objective, so the group is 100% in line with their objective. So they
now you sound like Ronan.
Well, I'd say Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's what Ronan gets confused.
Ronan
right?
gets confused on the difference between objective things and
Yeah.
having an objective.
No,
All
like my
Yeah, I'm
parable
not saying
about
Gabe's doing that.
right.
the story of the coffee table. Like the coffee table is where it's at, whether anyone agrees that it's there or not. Right?
Okay.
It's a finite thing that's in the room, and there could be a subjective opinion on where it's at, and there can be an objective agreement of opinions on where it's at, but that can change regardless of anybody's interpretation of it, and then they can find out about it being different. So I'm saying the absolute is where the coffee table actually is, whether anyone else exists or not.
Right. Well, in that, the initial example, it seems like you added the element of time, like overnight it shifted and no one knew about it, so they woke up thinking that they knew where it was, right? In the initial example.
Yeah,
But
well,
that's-
I mean, because
a
that's where we
time-
live in. Yeah, it is time, because things do change. So I don't know how that would. I
Well,
guess I'm curious how it would change it.
Well, yeah, I think when we talk about objective laws, like the laws of logic, it's actually it's metaphysical. It's not speaking of the physical world, because when we try to apply the law of identity to physical objects, like the thing is the thing, Gabe is Gabe, we're ever changing beings. If we
Right.
just look at pictures of ourselves or even do like intricate measurements, we're gonna have cell differences on a minute to minute basis. So I don't think the objective laws of logic apply to the physical world. And I think they're a metaphysical abstraction, but when we call them objective, I've never heard them termed as agreeably subjective. That's what I'm trying to hash out here. The idea of that.
So what would be the metaphysical or epistemological thing that this wouldn't be relevant to?
What do you mean this?
Like the concept of there being three levels of truth. I'm purporting there's three levels of truth: the absolute, the objective, and the subjective.
Well, yeah, I guess you could try
Oh.
I would start with like the laws of logic. I'd say I understand those to be objective laws, and you might argue that they are not, or they are actually absolute, or what would you say to that?
No, I'm saying that in anything in life, there are three levels of reality to it. There's the absolute, which is what it is. There's the objective, which is like the opinion on what it is, and then there's the subjective, which is the singular opinion. So,
Okay, so there's the absolute, which you're saying God's knowledge, and then the objective is our greatest knowledge, as close to
Right.
God as we can get, and then the singular subjective could be right or wrong, or neither of those things.
yeah, which would bleed into the objective, which is a collection of subjectives. Yes.
Huh. I guess I'm gonna have to think about that some more. It's definitely interesting.
This has been a wonderful night. I have talked to at least 4 Christians, and 2 of them, on at least 4 occasions, have been befuddled, confused, not come up with an answer. This has been a great night of people not knowing and happy to say, I don't know, I need to think about that.
Give me the question, I'll answer it in one sentence.
Can you show me a square circle?
There's no such thing. Go on.
That's not true, because as a joke, we have this thing at work about 2 days ago where it's a new part that come in, and it's literally a rectangle with a kink and a circle in it, and it's got some fucking stupid part number, and I called it a square circle, and it's caught on, and everybody calls it a square circle now. So it does
It's
exist.
not actually a square circle.
It's not a square circle, it's a rectangle with a kink and a hole in the middle.
I rest my case. There's no such
I
thing.
define it as a square circle.
Well, your definitions may not be the classical definitions.
Well, nobody at work gets the philosophical joke, but now everyone here does. I killed the crack.
JG, this stuff ties into the whole free will stuff as well. I mean, sorry.
Oh,
No, go
Gabe's
ahead.
internet just broke. Fucking free will. Fucking.
I'm sorry.
No, we will be ending soon. I just wanted to get Richard in for a wee while. I know Richard and goodness. That was a good.
Yeah,
Oh
I
no,
mean, I've
no,
been
I just
thinking
had a
about
nice hit. It's time for bed. I'm
free
getting ready
will.
for bed. Oh, I'm getting ready to sleep. I know Richard and I want to have Richard and Jay have a wee conversation, bounce back and forth. You know.
Well, I
Yeah,
wonder
Gabe.
what
Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
you go.
I found it interesting that Gabe was using the word absolute in the way that I've heard the word objective used very often. And then objective is a secondary step, and then of course subjective. I've never heard that used that way, but I'm not a scholar, so.
I'm definitely not a scholar, but I think it's a necessary step from, if you're looking at things religiously, if there's a deity and you appreciate him as being the absolute, then there's a subset under that for the objective.
Glad for the clarity. I thought that's the way that you meant it.
Yep. Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Under
I
what
thought
you
it
have heard
couldn't be
earlier,
clearer.
Richard, would you believe that JG, I don't mean to speak for you, JG, I'm just asking a question, the reasoning why asking Richard to come in. JG would be very similar to yourself, where he would be consistent, he would be logical, he would think things out. But I would say that your beliefs and his beliefs would be, you're a heretic and his would more align with a universalist Christian. I don't know, I'll throw words out till I get a trigger from Jay. You know, don't laugh at me, it's late. You know, I'd say you would disagree in some terms, and I would be interested to see how you would decipher, understand, and come to an understanding on some scripture.
My past experience of JG has been that he and I don't have trouble in parlance and language. We seem to be using, approximately the same terms most of the time. I believe that JG has different evidence than I've had on these topics, and that's where we don't agree.
Evidence, such as evidence, scriptural evidence.
Personal experience leading to a reading frame of the scriptural evidence. That evidence specifically.
Yeah, I guess we haven't talked that much about scripture. We've talked about different logical ideas from time to time, but
Yeah.
I don't think we've had too much of a long conversation, but it's been pretty good when I talk to you.
I think most of it we've been settling terms,
Yeah.
so that we know that we're not speaking past each other at any point. I think that's, at least in my family, that's a normal thing to do first.
Right.
Okay, we will. Can I ask a question to both Richard and Jay? And we'll get a wee bit of a teaser, and then maybe we'll follow it up on a different stream. But Richard, would you mind defining sin? I will then move to Clockwork. I will move to Gabe. I will move to Jay, and then I will finish off. We can all chill and we'll end. But Richard, we'll start with you. Can you define
First,
sin?
Yeah, I'm speaking from what I am persuaded to believe. Everything that I say is exactly that. There's nothing I'm saying that is a fact. In the reading frame I've adopted in spiritual stories, including the Bible, the hero of the story is the only one who completes it, and many demands are made of him. Of the populace, there are very few demands made. So that I should understand that Jesus is being warned against all these extremely nuanced, specific things, these mistakes he could make, i.e. sin. However, the people are generally ignorant of the truth of God and are extended grace for that reason. And the only way that they sin in a meaningful way, especially considering that the text said your sin will be made to righteousness, speaking to the population, that sin is not what the Christians say it is, but simply that you don't physically measure as a human.
Richard, you could have just said, I'm going to measure with a rope and see if you're taller than wider. Or
I wanted
wider
to be
than taller.
thorough. I wanted,
Like, I
I wanted to
literally
be thorough and
forgot
cover
who
both
the
kinds.
I literally forgot who I said was next because you waffled on that long. You were worse than Jay.
That's not waffling. That was very concise and with no extra words that I could use.
Motherfucker got a rope. You're wider than you're taller. You ain't going to heaven.
Well, your flesh is going to get recycled anyway.
There you
Doesn't
go.
mean
See,
you
no,
won't go
no,
to
no,
heaven.
no. Who was next? I forgot. Jay.
Up to you. Let me
No,
go get a
Clockwork. Yeah,
beer.
Clockwork was next.
No,
There you go.
let me go get a beer. Let other people play with.
You snuck in a little waffling comment there, MathPig. I was gonna say you're the IHOP of this whole talk tonight.
Well, I've been making a hashtag JG Waffles for quite a while, and I slipped that in with Richard as flashback humor. But it's funny that you pointed out because it was mainly about JG Waffles. Lots of words. Makes
Those sound tasty.
I was asking you earlier how you combine objective and subjective, and you went into this like minute and a half explanation of how the world
I
works.
rant. Just to be clear, there's a
Oh,
difference
waffle's
between
not
a
a rant,
rant
yeah.
and a waffle. All right.
well,
When you
Oh,
rant, you go on for fucking ages, and no one will shut you up. And even when other people try and talk, you won't shut up. A waffle is like, have you heard about the epistemology of my epistemic nature? About how
Stuff
I
you
think
don't
about
understand.
God as a
Is
blue
that what a waffle
circle.
is?
Hmm?
A waffle
that's
is stuff you don't
interesting.
necessarily understand.
Oh no, I
I
rant.
thought
and call-
waffling was flip-flopping between positions.
Yeah, I'm not flip-flopping between positions.
Why did they pick waffle for that word? I mean, waffles are
Because you-
constrained and square and
Because
grids.
you turn them over and you put,
No, all
butter on
I'm
the other
gonna
side
say-
and syrup.
All I'm gonna say is when I go to work tomorrow, I'm gonna have to get at least 14 square circles and set them up in kits. That's
They
So,
should have called it pancaking.
nobody got Clockwork Rex was going to tell us all what sin was, and you were next, Gabe.
He
So,
went for a beer.
Snowball is here.
Snowball!
Clockwork.
Why
So
doesn't
they-
Gabe go? Because Clockwork went for a beer. I'm not kidding you. He
Okay,
said,
right,
I'm
see-
going for a beer.
Right, fine.
Yeah, I went for
Huh?
a beer. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Back. We talked about him being gone so long he came back.
He was back at the start of the conversation and said hi, but you wouldn't shut up. Oh, Jesus. Sorry, no blasphemers here. Clockwork,
Whoa.
what's sin?
Convince me that any God is real. Like,
Okay, fuck that shit. Now you're gonna get that. One.
God damn it,
But what's
Matthew.
sin? But what is sin? Never mind whether or not there's a God. What is sin?
Sin is an illusion.
Okay.
That's an answer. Thank you. Gabe.
Yeah, in the Greek it says a missing. So if you read the Greek text, it says missing every time they mention sin. So sin is to be aside from the mark, be aside from the right way, to be aside from the law. And sin, the law is infirm in the flesh. So anybody that's in the flesh is inherently missing the mark all the time. So we can't live up to it. We're stuck in that conundrum. So that's what sin is. It's to miss. And Christ took us out of that, thankfully.
Well, what
Yeah,
is
yeah.
Christ
That was
in,
really good
uh,
definition.
Greek?
by the way.
Jay, that was a
Yeah.
very good definition, and not a rant, not a waffle, but enough information. Jay,
It's just I did like the definition by Gabe, but I would say always in sin, like every moment is sin. I don't know how that would work, because then it wouldn't be.
If I could.
Look, I'm
Add-
going to go MathPig later.
Have peace, Clockwork.
yep.
To add to that, sin is the law is infirm in the flesh because we can't be in the flesh without being sinning.
Gabe, you got
all
your
of our-
go. Gabe, you got your. Don't make me kick you. You
I'm
got-
No,
sorry.
I asked
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
I didn't.
was just going back to JG. We'll save it for Ace's channel.
Yeah, I want to. I want to talk to you about that more.
Right, Jay?
Sin is a transgression against God's law.
Bam! I was going to give the fucking damn exact same nearly answer. Midnight, go on ahead.
I mean, if we're defining sin, I guess I would say sin sins of the mistake you make in the eyes of God.
And my definition was sin is anything that disagrees with the will of God. So, yeah. Jay,
Okay, that's the same, kind of.
yeah, we're all pretty much the same. And on that note, we'll be taking this shit to the end of the stream because it's fucking wild late here.
Throw it into Gehenna.
Pardon?
Throw the stream into Gehenna.
I thought you said, have you ever seen Gattaca? And I was like, that's an amazing movie. It's fucking
sorry.
One of his favorite things, yeah.
Really? Yeah, I love Gallagher. Right, on that note, everybody, thank you very much. I know I called out Jay in the title and stuff. The reason for that was, Jay, do you want to join the stream and have the hangout? He said yes. And he left before I posted the link. But he came by, he joined, he was here before the start. So respect to yourself, Jay, for coming in. I appreciate it. I appreciate you asking the hard questions. Richard should have been here earlier. Gabe, nice talking to you. And for everybody
nice
watching,
to meet you.
thank you very, very much.
Snowball.
Yep.
Oh, I forgot
Nice
about
ball.
that. You slipped in at the end, you know. You
Well,
you just wanted in for the attention. That's what it was like. We're leaving. We're going to bed. We're all.
I mean,
going to
I
sleep.
am an attention whore, so there's that.
I know. That's
We
why.
love you, pookity wookity wookums.
I know. Why do you think
What?
everybody goes dark mode? It's like, who the fuck wants to look at all that white? And on that note,
Fuck you.
uh,
I'll chop you up and make you into bacon, make you eat yourself. Like, holy shit.
nah, get the fuck out.
Like, why did you send Christopher Mountain?
He's still talking. He's like Darth. He just keeps going. You still here?
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Well, Gabe, I hope to talk to you
Thank
some
you.
more.
No,
I
it's
enjoyed
got
it.
out of control. Yeah.
You too.
Thank you, people.
care,
Everybody.
Richard.
Wait, only MathPig's tired here. I'm not going anywhere if anyone else sticks around.
JG, you got a channel. Let's go.
Oh, I don't have a StreamYard hooked up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I let you.
You guys want me to host?
There you go.
I'll host. I'll put it in
Richard.
the private chat. Go ahead and kill it and go to sleep, brother. I'll put it in the private chat.
Richard, do you want me to make a big fancy one and all? Like
I need a public.
No. I want something boring.
Okay, do that.
Go to
Hang on.
sleep, brother.
No, I can't sleep. It's really early. I was gonna go. Come on, where's the link? We're all looking for the link. We're all looking.
Yeah,
for
in 3 seconds, sure.
Yeah, we're waiting. I'm giving the live chat a chance to see your. You know, you're gonna have to not only put.
Dude, I have to create a stream. It's going to be a good solid 3 to 5 minutes, okay?
You should just give me mod access. I'd have it done with now.
Gave it
Right.
to you forever ago. You lost it.
Everybody check out Richard's channel. He's having a naked party over in his party channel now.
It's not true.
Think for yourselves, people. And at the end of the day, I love every motherfucking one of you that come and watch this shit. I have no idea why the hell you just put up with me. But
We love you.
Well, I know you do. You know.
We, the whole
Pardon?
community. We, the whole community, love you.
I admit, MathPig, I have mixed feelings.
See, yeah. Thank you, Jay, for keeping it real. No, nobody talk. We're ending on that. I'm muting all the mics. Love yous all. Thanks for coming. Thank you for yourselves, people.